Originally published in 1984, Mechton was a game about giant robot battles. It's not only from the golden age of RPGs, but it was one of the first games to be inspired by Japanese animation. So today, we're going to be looking at its sequel, Mechton 2, a very important piece of role-playing game history. The original Mechton came about as a result of the creator, Mike Pondsmith, and his fascination with Mobile Suit Gundam, or so the story goes. This influence is muted in earlier editions of the game, where it read more like the rules to a tactical war game, but it becomes more apparent in Mechton 2, since the artwork looks something straight out of an 80s mecha anime, such as Gundam or Armored Trooper Votoms. Which is to say nothing about how they mention Japanese animation in almost every chapter. This then was also the first RPG that was made to sate somebody's desire for both anime and tabletop games, and it came about in 1984, years before anime became mainstream in the United States. I'm basically saying this game is an important artifact for anime fans. It's the first game to imitate the tropes of anime that was popular at the time. A lot of 1980s anime had science fiction themes, including one of my favorites, Super Dimensional Fortress Macross. One of the coolest things about Mechton's history though is this. There was a game published in Japan called Gundam Senki that used Mechton's rules as a basis. There was allegedly an English translation of Gundam Senki completed in 2003, but there has since been no news whatsoever of a United States release. The game uses a combination of 10 and 6-sided die. Skill rolls are a single 10-sided dice, whereas damage dealt is rolled using d6s. Skill rolls, which include piloting your mech, are done by rolling a d10 and adding your skill and stat to the result. You want your numbers to be higher than either a number determined by the GM or higher than another character's roll. The guidelines are fairly simple. 10 is for a simple task, 20 is for a difficult task, and 30 is for an impossible task. There's also a list of various modifiers that can be added as the situation dictates. It's all nicely summed up on this one chart. Character creation is also relatively simple. You have 10 stats, and you roll 10d10. You add up all the results, and then you have that many points to divide among your stats. The only stipulations are that none of your stats can be higher than 10, and they all need to be at least 2. Other than that, you can split them up however you want among these 10 stats. Intelligence, reflexes, cool, technical, attractiveness, luck, body, education, movement, and money and family. They come with a complete list of some subjective adjectives describing what a particular score means as well. One of the telling signs of this game's age is the education skill. This is what determines what your character's starting skill points are. You divide your skill points among the various skills available, and after that, the last step of making a character is picking your equipment. Your allowance for this is determined by your character's family and money stat, another telling sign of this game's age. After that is all said and done, you have what I think is one of the coolest things in this game, the life paths. It's yet another thing that tells the age of this game, since it's a series of random charts you can roll on to determine what your character's life history is. There's a total of 24 charts, covering everything from your character's family life, their romantic life, who their friends and enemies are, and even a few other personality traits. And if you're not careful, you can very easily just spend hours rolling on this, since you could feasibly also roll for all the NPCs that pop up in your character's history. Another weird thing that can happen if you go strictly by rolling on the charts is that your character can wind up homosexual. The sex of any friends and enemies that your character has is randomly determined, and one of the possibilities for how they are now a friend or enemy is that they were an ex-lover. The chapters dedicated to battling and constructing giant robots make up almost half of Mechton 2's contents. And unlike a certain other game that came out 10 years later, these are actually complete and usable as they're presented. I won't go into the specifics of how to make a mech, but the rules regarding that aren't too long, and it's a surprisingly easy read. At least for a rules guide to statting out giant robots from scratch, that is. However, this is still a game that has its roots in tabletop war games, and this is the biggest proof of that. It has a lot of rules regarding the placement and use of maps and miniatures. Though there's also one little liner note near the start of the section that bears mentioning. While Mechton is primarily designed as a role-playing game, and thus requires no movement board, We have designed board game elements into it to allow you to stage wargame style battles, as well as keep track of the movements of characters in the game. This first part, thus requires no movement board, is what I want to call your attention to. It means this game acknowledges that the map and placement rules are optional. They're not necessary, but if you want them, they're there. The general combat rules are fairly simple though. Attacking is the reflex stat, plus your weapon skill and any relevant modifiers, and then roll a die. Defending is also relatively simple. It's reflex, and then dodge or piloting depending if you're on foot or in machine, relevant modifiers, and then a die roll. This game also relies a lot on charts, but since it's a fairly short book, you can pretty easily find anything you're looking for. I'm going to be changing gears a little bit and also talk about Mekton Empire, one of the splat books available for Mekton 2. This is, in fact, one of the most interesting setting books I've ever seen in an RPG. It presents you with an entire universe, complete with all kinds of planets, civilizations, mysteries, and historic events. However, there are some details that are left blank for these, such as the birth and death dates of the NPCs, as well as what their impact on the known universe was. And the planets and their coordinates are also left unstated. So you have a world that's got all the parts you need, ready to go, and you as the GM can piece it together as you're going along. It also comes with this blank map that you can use, and a lot of different entries are fill in the blank. Quite literally, they have blank spaces in them. The idea behind this was that if the setting was put together like this with so many blank holes, there would be plenty of possible definite answers, but also enough mystery that would prevent the players from reading the book beforehand, and then using knowledge that their characters might not have. It also included some additional rules for including psychic characters, alien races, and giant ship battles as well. And since it was designed using the interlock system, this also meant that all or parts of what was included in this book, as well as Mekton 2, could viably be used in other games in the interlock line as well, such as Cyberpunk 2020. So there you have it, Mekton 2, one of the first games that was inspired by Japanese animation. It's probably not a game I would run myself, but mostly just because giant robots really aren't my thing. But otherwise, it's a fantastic game that I still think would hold up today. So, with all that said, I am Aaron Dershadel, and I will see you all next time. Thanks for watching. If you like this look into the past, go ahead and give me a press of that like button. And if you're interested in other looks into the past where anime and role-playing games have intermingled, I've got a few other videos on that topic as well, like the various ones I've done on Big Eyes Small Mouth,